Welcome. I'm Sonia. This series grew out of questions that have been coming up again and again in my wisdom card circle, especially the questions about disconnecting from people who feel toxic, including family. I want to say this first. If you have experienced harm or abuse, your need for safety is real. Nothing here is about forcing contact, reconciliation, or forgiveness. This is a series that offers another perspective. Alongside trauma awareness and boundary work, I'll be sharing a systemic view rooted in family constellations work. This perspective doesn't ask, who do I cut off? It asks, what is happening in the system and what wants to be restored? Many people find relief in disconnecting and still feel something unresolved later. From a systemic point of view, that doesn't mean you failed. It may mean something still wants to be acknowledged or put back in the right place. This is an invitation, not a rule. Take what resonates, leave the rest, and I'm glad you're here. So, let's begin. There is a growing conversation right now about adult children cutting ties with their parents. People sometimes call it divorcing your parents. And for some people, this choice feels necessary. For others, it feels confusing, painful, or heavy, even years later. In this video, I want to explain this phenomenon from a family constellations perspective, also called systemic intelligence. This is not about blaming children. It is not about excusing abuse. And it's not about forcing reconciliation. It is about understanding what happens in the family system when a parent is excluded, and how healing can happen without denying real trauma. So it's got to be inclusive and not exclusive. If you've lived through harm, please know your safety matters. Your experience matters. Nothing here requires contact or forgiveness. So let's start gently. What does divorcing your parents mean systemically? Let's have a look. From a systemic point of view, divorcing your parents doesn't mainly mean moving away or setting boundaries or even going no contact. It simply systemically means something more subtle. It means that the child steps out of their place as the one who receives life and moves into a different role. Often the role of judge, rejecter, or moral authority. This may not be consciously. And it's not because they are wrong, but because something hurt deeply. So check yourself if you are one of those, where am I hurting? And what role am I now taking instead of being the child? I just want you to question that for yourself. So I would like to work with the wisdom card order, which means, am I in my rightful place? In constellation work, this card reminds us those who came later cannot stand above those who came earlier. And when a child carries judgment over a parent, the burden becomes too heavy for the child. At a systemic level, the movement sounds like this. I don't want the life that came through you. I want life, but without you. That sentence is usually unspoken, but the family system feels it. Here's a simple way to understand this. Imagine a tree. The roots are the ancestors, the trunk are the parents, and the branches are the children. Life flows from the roots through the trunk into the branches. This brings to mind the wisdom card, taking life, receiving life, giving and receiving. This card represents the most basic movement in a family. Children receive life and parents give life. So without the parents having given life, the children could not have received life. And nothing else can replace that flow. It is fundamental to your life. So when a child cuts off a parent, it's like a branch saying, I don't need the trunk anymore. The tree does not punish the branch, but the flow weakens. And the system tries to heal the break. Now, let's look at how we can build an important safety bridge. I want to be very clear. Family constellations does not say stay unsafe in a situation, tolerate abuse, deny what happened, forgive before you are ready, or keep contact at all cost. Distance can be absolutely necessary. Because belonging is essential. Belonging is not about behavior. Belonging means you exist in the system, whether I like what happened or not. You cannot cut the system out of you. You cannot replace your DNA. You can be physically distant and still say inside yourself, you are my parent. What you did was yours. And the consequences belong to you. And I take life. This is sacred. I take life, not your behavior. That restores belonging without self-betrayal. Why does the system care about belonging? In systemic intelligence, belonging comes before healing. When someone is excluded, the system becomes restless. And so in my pack of cards, I have the card inclusion. And what this card teaches is what is excluded doesn't disappear. It moves somewhere else in the system. and you're not in control to where it moves to. That's why exclusion often shows up later as repeating relationship patterns, emotional heaviness, children carrying what parents couldn't. And this is not punishment. It's the system trying to be whole. Exclusion cannot exist by itself. But I agree. Cutting off can feel good, and then not. Cutting off a parent can bring real relief, and that relief is valid. But many people later ask, why do I still feel stuck? And so you ask yourself, where am I loyal to a system that I wanted to be separate from? This card points to a hidden dynamic. When order is broken, someone later compensates. And I just now said you're not in control of what happens in the system. You can only control yourself choosing something different. Often the child keeps carrying the parent internally, even without contact. Systemic healing happens when the child steps back into a smaller space and gives the burden back. Respectfully, with honor, and in a good way. So let's look at a simple healing movement. And it's a very simple internal movement used in constellation work. This is really powerful when you can do this with humility and sensitivity. Saying to your parents, you are the big ones. I am the small one. And at first, this may feel like it hooks a bit. But the truth is, they had breath before you, and you gained breath because they had breath before you, which means they are the big ones, and you are the small one. But you can also say, what you did was yours. Respectfully, I leave it with you. I take life, and I will do something good with it. This is not forgiveness. This is order, and order brings relief. So I suggest you try it and see what happens for you. From a family constellation perspective, children divorcing their parents is not a moral failure. It is often a sign of deep pain and of a system trying to survive. There is a striving towards wholeness. And the wholeness card reminds us healing happens when nothing is excluded. And when nothing hurts, you can walk away and still belong. This card reminds us healing happens when nothing is excluded and not when nothing hurts. You can walk away and still belong. You can protect yourself and still stay connected to life. Nothing has to be denied for healing to happen. As I've said, this is the start of a new series. So if you want to continue on this journey and want to learn more about this specific topic, click on the subscribe, like, click on the bell so that you don't miss out on any of the future conversations that I am going to put forward in this series. I look forward to seeing you again. Be safe until then.